Have a great day, okay?
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Cameras Everywhere. Today, we're going to be having a conversation with Foshin from the excellent YouTube channel. This is a public service. This is a public service is a auditing channel, a First Amendment channel, an investigative journalist based out of Northeast Florida, I believe. I'm going to talk to him about his motivation, about his channel. I think that he's going on about 300 videos here and been active for about 2 years. He's worked with the legends of the auditing community, and I'm going to play a little video for you real quick. That's about 2 minutes long, just to get an idea who we're talking to. Then I'm going to bring him on, and we're going to talk to him.
Question, and you didn't know the answer to it. Would you make a good faith effort to find out the answer to that question?
Yeah, I would try to. If I knew like a route to take or
cool.
direct them in the right direction.
Cool. So there's 5 freedoms secured to us by the First Amendment. Could you tell me what those 5 freedoms are?
No.
You couldn't?
No, I don't feel the need to. Not that I can, I just don't feel the need to. Is there anything else we can help you with?
It was about good faith.
All right, I understand that.
So
Is there
you
anything
won't
else I can help you with?
So that's exactly right in my face. Now you're just going to shut it right in my face. If somebody had a question for you and you didn't know the answer, would you make a good faith effort to find the answer to that question?
Always.
The First Amendment of the Constitution, it secures 5 fundamental freedoms to we the people. Could you tell me what those 5 freedoms are?
No, sir. Have a good day.
Chief,
Sir, I have to
the
do
question
somewhere.
was about good faith.
I know. Thank you.
If one of the people asked you a question and you didn't know the answer to it, but by all rights it was something you should know the answer to, would you make a good faith effort to find out the answer to that question?
Absolutely.
There's 5 freedoms secured to us by the First Amendment. Can you tell me what those 5 freedoms are?
5 freedoms.
Secured to us by the First Amendment.
Yeah, I can tell you. I choose not to.
You're saying you'll choose not to, but where does that good faith effort come in?
Apparently you know it, so you're asking me if I know it.
That's right, I am. Because you swore an oath to protect it. Right?
Oh, you have a good day now, right?
So there's no good faith? No. The First Amendment of the Constitution, it secures 5 fundamental freedoms to we the people. Could you tell me what those 5 freedoms are?
Well, unfortunately, I have somewhere to be.
There's 5 freedoms secured to us by the First Amendment. Could you tell me what those 5 freedoms are?
We're having a conversation.
Yeah.
In front of them.
Yeah, we're having a conversation about good faith. So would you make that good faith effort?
I appreciate it.
So is that a no? No, you won't. So you're yeah, but you're here for an event for the people, and he works for the city.
I'm going to start talking about people that
Not a ton of good faith, Chief. Like you were engaging here, and like you're just walking away.
Yep.
So that was kind of sad. And here he is. This is the public service, Foshin. Welcome. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you. I was just going to say, man, that stirred me up hearing all that resistance right there.
Well, that said, that's my favorite part of your videos still.
Yeah, you know,
I mean, that's what I look forward to see if they, how, not if they're going to answer, but how they're going to answer.
Yeah, you know, it started off, I actually thought that this was going to be something that they knew, you know, that, or maybe that they didn't know, that maybe that more would know than didn't. But, you know, I kind of had to change it from, do you know this thing, to will you even try to engage productively with society?
Right. And I really want to talk to you about this question that you asked and get a little bit into it. But before that, I want to ask you about your backstory. Not necessarily about watching this kind of content online and starting to do it, but personally, do you have a backstory or a catalyst that kind of catapulted you into this? I mean, a lot of people are, some people just watch videos online. Some people were victims of corrupt policing or corrupt government. Some people are ex-convicts and have the experience that way. So do you have something like that
So
motivates you?
it's kind of a yes and a no. We talked a little bit about it earlier. Just the just our personalities. So I moved down to Florida because of a code enforcement issue. We had a business in Florida, and code enforcement was really going over the top with our business, and it actually forced me out of my home where I was up north, and I had to move down here and deal with these issues that the city was trying to impose on us. And I came down here and I took care of those issues, and I went, I kind of just went back to my life. All of those things just brooding. And then, I've been a part of the watching community from that standpoint, and I just reached a limit. That was it. I just reached a limit. But that was my personal thing, was just something that just leave us alone. I mean, leave businesses alone, leave the people alone. Let us live our lives. We don't need the government to tell us everything that we need to do and how we need to do it. It's just too much.
So you had a business and you were dealing with code enforcement being abusive. Is that right?
Code enforcement in Port Orange. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Port Orange. Port Orange is the municipality that James Madison Audits had a particular problem with as well. And they're particularly bad. Every level of government in Port Orange is particularly terrible.
And you've been working with James Madison Audits quite a lot lately. I've seen a lot of videos of you guys working together coming out.
I have. It's been quite nice because he was probably one of the people I respected most in the community, and to be able to have him not only as a resource to ask questions to, but to be able to work with him and to be able to call him a friend now.
So the 1A community on YouTube or on whatever other platform, it's fairly new. I mean, people have been recording the cops since probably before Rodney King, but it's a fairly new genre. How did you start watching these videos? Who were you watching, and what's the story there?
I'm not sure how I started watching it, but as soon as I started watching it, it drew me in because I saw, in my eyes, it was not only people trying to point out something wrong with society, but like it or not, these things aren't going to change themselves, and more times than not, it's only the shaming that actually provokes any change. It's the shaming that the officials get. It's the shaming. It's the mass redress that people that watch the videos, they call in, and they've had enough of this creep into our lives and this creep over our civil liberties. So who did I watch? I watched Madison. I watched Surveyor Raw. I don't actually think I saw Cameras Everywhere until quite a long time after I was into Surveyor Raw. Honor Your Oath. There's probably a lot that I'll probably make people mad by not mentioning people, but San Joaquin. The larger channels I've been watching for many years, so there was probably a lot less to choose from then as there is now. It's a growing community for sure.
Yeah, I thought maybe a year ago, I was like, wow, this is starting to really explode. Actually, it was exploding before that, but a year ago I started to see almost a new channel every day. And with something like Cameras Everywhere, what I was doing then is I'd be looking for a channel with 1 subscriber or something like that, and so I could push him 1,000 subscribers, and he could have a channel, and he might keep doing it because there's a lot of attrition. But yeah, it's a hard thing to wrap your head around for me, because it's something I'm interested in. It's a little bit of entertainment as well. But yeah,
There's just it's a lot of negativity, and negativity doesn't necessarily breed a positive life, so the more you consume of this thing and the more you take part in this thing, um, it it doesn't leave you hopeful at the end of the day, and that's not the that's certainly not the way that I want to go through my life, is ending my day hopeless, because what did we encounter today? More tyranny.
yeah, it's toxic, and you can feel it. You can feel it all inside you. That's one thing that I really don't like about it. Uh, and I've thought about just abandoning it altogether because of that. You know.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that hasn't felt that, I think, is maybe they're a little too detached from knowing themselves. I'm not going to say I'm fully self-aware, but I know enough about myself to know that it's not making me healthier. You know what I mean? But what's the trade-off? I think everybody got into it at a point because, well, maybe not everybody, but you look at something and you say, well, if it's not going to be me, who's it going to be? You know what I mean? And am I willing to just let things exist in the way that they are, assuming that they're only going to get worse, and have to look back at my life and say, well, I could have done something, but I chose to do nothing.
Well, I think sometimes you have the feeling that this isn't working. Change isn't being made. I think actual change being made is more rare, and the general effect is just exposure to people being like, oh wow, this is really how it is. And I've said this on other live streams before, is that I used to watch these videos, and I knew the government wasn't good. I knew the police weren't that great because I had some experiences with them myself, but I didn't realize how bad it actually was.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much the people had fallen themselves. Is that something that you had a grasp on before, or were you shocked?
No, I think I was a little self-deluded. I thought that, there's these issues, and I thought that, well, surely I can come in. I'm an intelligent person. I'm articulate. I can come in and, I don't want to say right the ship, but I can certainly make some positive change quickly. And wow, how wrong I was. I think I've more come to the realization that it's less about fixing the problem now. It's more about documenting the downfall of what's happening to our society. And the people, the all of these agencies are to blame, but we're to blame just as much. Our society is so detached from what our individual rights are that it's quite scary. I mean, everybody has trolls. You've got trolls, I've got trolls, and it's, you know, do these people, do they hate freedom? I mean, do they not see what this is? And yeah, I have trouble wrapping my mind around that.
Yeah, me too. Um, I've actually converted quite a few trolls, believe it or not. I'm always nice and kind to the trolls. I answer their questions first.
Yeah, maybe I should try that tact. I don't engage too much with them, just because there just seems to be a disconnect with reality, and maybe I should engage more with them. I don't know.
I mean, they're usually your biggest fans.
You're not wrong there.
Well, I want to ask you about your style and how you approach these videos. One thing that I really admire when I look at your videos is that you're very nice and polite and composed. But if you watch enough of your content, you'll sense or observe a undercurrent of intense frustration, and maybe even rage. Am I on the nose there, or am I off?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. And I've had conversations with Leslie Sullivan about this. That you can see in my earlier interactions that that undercurrent wasn't as apparent as it is now. And yeah, you're spot on there. I I want to give the people the benefit of the doubt, and I try to always give what I get, and it's very difficult. And then once kind of the tide is turned in the interaction, um, really at that point it becomes an exercise in controlling myself more than anything. Because I know that these people are off the rails. They have no connection with reality, and now I want to scream at them that, have they lost their mind? Um, and that's probably the most difficult thing, is controlling myself when things just start falling apart.
So that undercurrent is increasing and becoming more and more to the surface every time you go out.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know how to um, I don't know how to control that aspect, because you know initially on every interaction, I want to say, well, this is the person that's going to just be civil with me, and this is the person that's just going to do their job correctly, and this is the person that is going to serve the people, and almost without fail, it's just the opposite, and I get terrible people reacting to.
Well, just so you know, I mean, I think you're doing a great job. I mean, I can sense that frustration, and I actually, I'm not happy that you're feeling it, but I like it in the sense that I feel it too, and so I'm feeling your pain when I'm watching your work, and in that sense, it there's a sense of camaraderie through the video, you know.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's a shared feeling with a lot of the viewers that see what's going on, and they just want they're yearning for the right thing to happen. That are we finally going to have something be as it should be, where government recognizes its role and acts in its proper place. But yeah, but that's just not how it goes most of the time.
What kind of upbringing did you have? What kind of family are you from? What kind of education did you receive? And has that stuff carried over strongly into what you're doing?
So I come from a nuclear family. My parents weren't divorced. I'd say it was a middle class household. Um, I went to college, although didn't graduate from college. And then I was involved in a family business, and then I've since grown a couple other businesses since then. I don't know that there's a ton of carryover from this work to that, but I think I've been able to carry over a lot of the things I've learned in business, maybe not to the YouTube side of things, but just in the interacting with people side of things. Every business, almost every business, is a customer service business. So it's a shame that government doesn't view themselves as a customer service business, but that's how I try to approach things. That I'm going to get what I give, and really you know, I see less of that, where I'm more responding to just, you know, that's when you see the change in me, is where um, they're giving something that, I mean, just because they see this this camera, you know, this objective record machine in somebody's hand, they just lose their mind, as if, you know, the cameras that they have on their wall don't have some similar feeling or impression on us.
You'd think it would have the opposite effect, like, oh, this guy's recording, I better behave myself.
Yeah, I better be on my best behavior. I better give him even more and better service. But you know, I think that that's just speaks to um, the attitude of government, that, you know, nothing's going to happen to us. I mean, we can treat you whatever way we want. We're not going to get fired. We're probably not even going to get disciplined. The chances of us getting spoken to about this in a negative way are pretty slim. It's it's chilling, to say the least.
What I've noticed is that the police are a part of the mob, and that we kind of, you know, since 2020, the mob culture has sort of been increasing a lot. And it's funny because the like the mob that I'm thinking of, they want to like defund the police, they hate the police, but the police are like right with them in
Yeah,
this strange way, you know?
stoking the fire. Um, and yeah, they are and I don't know that the police are unique in that respect, but you know, they certainly have they think about the heckler's veto and just saying, well, if we can stir this up, the more we stir this up, the more we can use force and violence, or the faster we can use force and violence against this person that we don't like what they're doing and would like to see them caged for it.
Yeah, and they really want to resort to this force. They really want it to be stirred up. They want you to be the worst version of yourself, because I think they're low functioning and low IQ, a lot of them. You know, so
Yeah, I
force is
think
what they have.
that's I think that's all they know. So they assume that everybody that they interact with is the same way, and that the faster we can resort to physical violence, the better. I can just move on with my day. I can get this person caged up and taken care of. Where they don't. All of this is a fundamental misunderstanding, in, like, with the hierarchy of government. You know, they do not see themselves below the people. They see themselves on top of the people. And until that changes, none of this is going to change. And I don't
Well,
know when that changed for the worse, but if it was always that way. But it cannot change if they think the proper role for government is on top of the people.
they are on top of the people.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean, I'm not saying that
but
they
yes,
should be, but they actually are.
yeah, I'm yes, but that is not the proper role of our government, right? That's not the way that we were founded in this country. That's not the way that it's supposed to be, and that's not the way that the Constitution is laid out. The Constitution isn't a measure against the people; it's a control against the government.
I've put this out there many times before, so I won't harp on it. But just to get your thoughts, I always think that the people have trained the police. And the people have trained the police to behave the way they do, and the people are very sheepish and fallen. And so the police go around being able to step on everybody to get ID from everybody, even if they're not entitled to it, to do whatever they want with everybody who just is ready to bend over and take it. And then they meet a guy with a camera who's not willing to bend over, and it sends like kind of shock waves into them. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to react. They start to short circuit. They start to twitch. They start to like be super distracted and look around. You know, but do you Do you agree with that? That the people have trained the police, and that the state is a reflection of the people that it dominates?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if we just pulled a sample of society and just had an officer walk up to them randomly and maybe even just a walking down the street environment, and the officer said, "Let me see your ID," they would immediately, without question, take out their ID and give it to the officer, and that's a norm for them, and that's the norm for the officer too. So it doesn't even take the camera, it just takes the word no being said. Like no is no is like kryptonite to an officer.
Yeah,
They don't know what to do with it.
it sure is. It sure is. They're just like they're like, if we're not gonna play that game. That's what they say when you start to like say no, or you start to want to assert constitutional rights. We're not going to go down that road. We're not going to play that game.
Yeah, there's the easy way and the hard way, and the easy way is just submit to whatever I say, and the hard way is I'm going to use violence and force against you. And I would prefer the hard way is what's in the officer's mind, in most officers' minds. I think it's, I don't know. I mean, I hate to just cast everybody under this umbrella, but I mean, I think it's as bad as 2%. You know, where we have 2% of officers that would say, "Well, hold up, let's pump the brakes here. We've got rights here. He's got rights." You know, I think it's that bad, though.
What kind of cases do you have against you? What are some things you've been charged with, and what have the results of those been?
So the first cases that I had against me were my visits to the Social Security Administration. Um, I visited 3 different locations, 2 of them with Rogue Nation, and um, at one of the locations, at the first location, I came back and I met with a Federal Protective Services agent, and he wanted to ticket me for filming, and then he wanted to ticket me for disobeying signage. So I think after the third one, they must have found out from someone somehow who I was, and they kind of ambushed me in the Land Police Department one day when I was supposed to go in and meet with the chief of police on a unlawful trespass that I was issued at that Social Security. And that day he issued me 6 citations. I didn't refer to them before I came in, but I think it's 41 CFR 102. I can't remember what they are, but they're the filming one and the disobeying signage one. And I was given 6 of those, 3 for each. And I went to federal court 3 times on those charges. The first 2 times, none of those times did I actually see a judge. But the first 2 times, they kind of just pulled me into a side room with the prosecutor and the Homeland Security agent, and they were just talking to me about what their process was going to be, and I think they wanted me to come to some understanding that what my understanding of the law was somehow now different than what it was when I first came in, which, you know, it didn't change. The last time I went, I took Catherine Henry with me. So Catherine is a constitutional attorney who's not actually licensed in Florida, but she is licensed in Michigan, a couple federal courts, and the Supreme Court. And I took her with me the last time that I met with prosecutors. And this time they just said, we're going to forward these charges on to federal prosecutors once again. And I have heard nothing about any of that since then. So I don't know if they're just waiting for the worst possible moment to do something with those. Honestly, I think that they're gone. They're dead. They're not going to pursue them because it's clearly laid out in those CFRs, the Code of Federal, regulation that that press has a lawful right to be there, filming in those areas. And then the other charge was a trespassing charge from my Orlando City Hall visits, and I actually went to court, and I was convicted. I was convicted by a jury of my peers, and that is currently on appeal. So I think we're about 60 to 90 days from submitting an initial brief on that appeal.
Let me ask you about your good faith question, which we saw at the top of the segment a little bit of. When I was editing just that 2 minutes together, I mean, you ask this question in almost every video, and the question goes, if one of the people came up to you and asked you a question, you didn't know the answer to it, but by all rights, you should know the answer, would you make a good faith effort to answer that question? And then, or to find out the answer to that question. And then you ask them the question about the 5 elements of the First Amendment. What is the origin of this question? And in going through, I noticed that the question has evolved a little bit. Used to phrase it a little bit different, used to ask for an honest answer a couple times, I noticed, and then it changed to good faith. But the question is more or less seems to be fully formed from the beginning. So why did you start asking this question? And what did you learn from asking this?
Well, I asked the question, I mean, or I think because it's important, right? Because they swear an oath to this, to these things, to secure these rights, to protect these rights. And originally the question came from Sam Joaquin. Sam Joaquin asked the question, what are the 5 elements of the First Amendment? And I believe that's how my first iteration of it was. What are the 5 elements of the First Amendment? And then, I got feedback from people where they're saying, oh, elements this, elements that. And so I just kind of further developed it. I mean, you have enough conversations and you kind of see where you can improve. And I think that asking it in that way is an improvement. What are the 5 freedoms secured to us by the First Amendment? I think that there's no wiggle room there. There's no, well, I didn't understand what an element was. Well, there's no getting out of it there. And where the good faith came in was because if you ask that question in almost all circumstances, you're going to immediately get blown off. You even asking that question is an affront to civilized conversation or something. So I made it about good faith to keep them engaged and to have them commit to, really it's, are you a good officer or are you not a good officer? Will you make a good faith effort? And almost all officers say, yeah, I'm a good officer. I'll make a good faith effort to find out the answer to your reasonable question. And then they find out in their eyes that it's not a reasonable question. It's a question that makes them look like a fool. And then they want to leave. And we've seen chiefs just walk away in bad faith.
Now, you have to ask this question after you warm these people up, because if you ask this question in the beginning, they would be gone.
Yeah.
So you warm them up by saying, "Hey, nice hat. How you doing? How long have you been on the force? It's blah 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 blah." And then you ask the question, and then all of a sudden they're like, where's the exit?"
Yeah. You got to play nice for a while, right? You got to make them. I don't even know what it is, because at the end of the day, it's still a reasonable question. I think it's a completely reasonable question, and obviously, every officer doesn't feel the same way, but I've had a few good conversations with officers about it, but so few that it's so chilling. It's disgustingly chilling.
So what's the breakdown here? I noticed when I was going through in your videos, I couldn't find any officer that knew all five, but I could find a couple officers that knew three, or that knew four, or that knew two. Um, but what is it? Is it like a 75% failure rate? I
Yes.
mean, if
I
you
mean,
consider four pass or almost a pass,
yeah, I mean, maybe it's still a 90% fail rate. Four is if four is a pass, there's probably there's probably 10% that have gotten in. Ironically, it's only one jurisdiction. It's only one department that falls within that four, which is Holly Hill. Holly Hill is the only department that actually trains their officer on this. So I think that while those ones that had four, if I would have been patient and guided a little bit, I think they would have probably gotten five. The vast majority, they don't even try. They act in complete bad faith, and nobody has ever gotten all five. No officer. I had Captain Christopher Roos out of Ormond Beach Police Department. He got all five on a revisit, so he knew. His department specifically, they paid, I think it was Madison have to fact check me on this, but I think they paid $10,000 to have a trainer come in on auditors, and the training company actually uses me as an example and Madison as an example. So some of these people see me coming from a mile away, and they still don't know. They just can't take the time to just learn such a simple and fundamental thing that I mean, these are conversations we should be having. Officers should be having them with kids, with everybody, with every interaction. All it's going to do is build positive relationships with the community, but they're not about positive relationships. They're about force and violence.
so you're at about a 90% or they're at about a 90% failure rate for knowing the five elements. But the truth is, your question is not really about the five elements. It's about good faith.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a question that's extremely easy to pass, because you just say, "Yeah, I will." I mean,
Yeah.
that's all that's required. You're like, "Would you make a good faith effort?" Yes. Then you ask the question. If they don't know that, they could simply say, I don't remember, or I'm not exactly sure. I don't know them all, but I will make that effort, and that would be a pass, wouldn't it?
In my eyes, it would be. Sometimes I ask that question, and then I'll actually ask them to take down my email address and follow up with me. And that, the officer that was on the motorcycle in the intro, he took down my email and he got back to me. He got back to me with the answer. So, he made that good faith effort, and that's what I'm asking for. Because it's too much to ask them to know the First Amendment. Apparently, that's too much to ask them, but asking them to have a good faith effort, I guess that's more reasonable. And if that's how things have had to evolve, I'm okay with that. I'm not pleased with that. I'm not going to accept that, by any standard for our policing. But I'd like to see officers act in good faith. I'm sure we all would.
Yeah. It's pretty sad watching all this stuff in your channel, but like I said, I do look forward to that question, because the nature of these First Amendment audits is the story is undisclosed. So the story is like the camera. So what's your story about? And people say, I can't disclose it, because the story is about the purpose of the story is kind of hidden, even though it's like right out there in your face.
Yeah, the story is them. The story is automatically whoever's in front of the camera, and they can make it a real positive story real quick. I mean, real easy. Just be friendly, just be courteous, just give the service that you were likely contracted to give. And all of the employees in Florida, they sign an oath, they swear an oath to support, protect, and defend the Constitution, and I expect them to do that.
Let's go through some of these questions that you get when you're recording. And I'm not necessarily, not questions, but statements or whatever people say when you're out there recording. And let's talk about what these things actually mean. The first one, which I think we could start with, is this one here. How can I help you? What does that mean? Because you can tell if you watch these videos, this is something you hear in almost every single video, and it's almost never sincere.
Yeah, and I don't. It might have actually been you. Actually, I think it is you. You've said, you've posed the question back by saying, "Well, what kind of help are you offering?"
Yeah,
and that's what it comes down to, because they're not offering any help. They want to everything. We've abandoned the presumption of innocence with policing. It's gone. There's no presumption of innocence. Everyone is a criminal, and once they view everyone as a criminal, how can I help you is either, well, how can I get rid of you the fastest? What are you doing, and how can I stop it? But they have there's no interest in help, right? I mean,
no, they actually want you to help them.
Yeah, most people that need help, they ask for it. They say, "Oh, could you help me with something, officer?" So
sorry about that sound. My neighbor's alarm is going off. Oh, there we go. Yeah, when they ask, "How can I help you?" I've always, if you just hang in a little bit past the "How can I help you," you'll see that it's, I want you to help me. You know what I mean? Tell me the information that I want to know, and tell me the answer that I want to hear, and then do what I say.
Yeah.
Afterwards. That's basically, how can I help you?
Yeah. Why are you filming?
Somebody, ex-bootlicker says, "Can you get me a Mountain Dew?" That's what James Freeman says. The other one I hear a lot is, "We can't have you recording." And I hear this a lot, and I think the key word here, or there's different variations of this. We can't have you recording. We're not allowed to do that. But the "we" here is grouping you in with them. So the "we" is like this forced coupling that they do. Do you see that as well? Like they try to bring you in as if you're together. So for example, "We can't have you recording," as if they have you recording. They don't have you recording though. You're there by yourself recording, you know?
Yeah. No, I think I've actually encountered that one less, maybe not even at all, but it all comes down to, they're the only ones that get to have an objective record. They're the only side that decides where that's proper and where it's where it's going to be suitable. They, again, fundamentally, they forget who has the right.
Mitten State Media says, "Do you have permission?" This is actually an outlier, because I think "do you have permission" actually means what it says almost. It's a question, which is basically, do you have permission? Or maybe you don't have permission, something like that.
Or not realizing that the permission is explicit and it's given to all of us, right? That, you don't need to ask for permission to exercise rights.
Yeah. Another one I hear a lot is, "This is private property." Now, this means, I think they're honestly, I can't tell if they're just liars or they honestly believe that this is private property, because every time I hear that, it's public property. This is state property. It's private. You know, this is City Hall. It's private property. You know,
Yeah, and
the sidewalk is private property.
fundamentally, right there, it's all about power and control. It's all about saying that it's that recognition about the misrecognition about the hierarchy of government. They are up here, and we are the peasants down here. And I don't know how to write that. I don't know how to have someone understand that. I've said that in a couple interactions, and I've gotten just disgust. They were just disgusted that I would even think that we were somehow above them in the hierarchy. FEMA was a prime example of that. My interactions with FEMA, where those people are just so disgusting. They think that we are subservient to them, that we are the slaves.
I hear people like to hide behind HIPAA during a lot of these videos, and they say things like, "We can't have you recording because we have private information here." And what I always find funny about that is, it's like they're coming out and then they admit to a HIPAA violation. They're like,
Yeah,
"We can't have you recording because we have private information posted on the wall."
Yeah, it's crazy. They're self-snitching. That's what it is. They're just self-snitching, and they're saying you can't document our malfeasance.
This is a publicly. Oh, yeah. How about they were sticking the camera in people's faces?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever. I mean, maybe I have. Maybe
Haven't either.
Yeah, Auditing America has done that or something like that. But I don't even think he's done something as.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of the time, that's the point where they'll take their camera out and they'll actually start trying to stick it in your face. But I've never seen anybody, approach somebody and try purposefully to make them uncomfortable with the camera. I don't. That scenario is a fantasy.
Not by putting it in their face, at least.
Yeah.
I don't think I've probably seen, I don't even know how many videos, thousands upon thousands of videos. I've never seen any buddy in our community go up and put a camera up in someone's face. It's always I've seen the opposite, where they're recording from a distance, or like a normal personal space, and someone comes up and sticks the camera in their face while saying you can't record. I've seen that a lot. Yeah,
as if they brought the encounter to them. As if who was it? Shit. The Random Patriot put out a video. I think it was yesterday, where he got assaulted by a sergeant because he was putting his camera in his face. Where it was the sergeant that approached him. It was the sergeant that escalated along the whole way, and then the sergeant finally grabs his camera for him sticking in his face. And really, the whole time he's backing away. He's trying to create this personal distance in this space, and it's just. They're exercising this authority and this control that only exists. Well, it actually exists, but it only exists in their mind legally. But I guess it's real because no one on the other side ever gets charged. There's no accountability. There's no transparency. We see that everywhere with everyone. There's never accountability. Never real accountability.
I've actually seen multiple times a police officer detach their body camera from their body and stick it and hold it up like this. I've seen that.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Yeah, that's very strange. It's a very strange thing to do. How about how about this conversation is over, or I'm not gonna, I don't want to argue.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think these are probably all about authority and control, right? The conversation's over because I lack the depth to engage in a conversation, maybe, or I lack the intelligence to actually find out what the next point in the conversation is. I think that maybe that's fundamentally it, that they lack so much these interpersonal skills, that having a conversation that doesn't involve bending to their will is not actually a conversation. It's an argument. It's an argument that you or I are engaging in, not that they are provoking. um, but I think it's all control.
That's like the easy way or the hard way. When you hear the easy way or the hard way, um, usually it's where a police is trying to get ID, and the person doesn't want to give ID, and they're like, we could do this the easy way or the hard way. So whenever you hear a constitutional rights assertion, then you'll hear right after that, look, we could do this the easy way or the hard way. In
Yeah,
other words, like, if you start asserting your rights, I'm gonna make this difficult on you. I'm gonna hurt you. I'm gonna put you in a cage. I'm going to, you know,
yeah. The easy way is give up your rights voluntarily, and the hard way is you're going to give those rights up with state violence. State violence is going to force you to give those rights up. That it's the hard way from them. There's no hard way for you. You're just standing on your rights, right? There's none of this.
right. They're talking about their self.
Yeah,
It's you're making this harder for us.
yeah,
Austin says you're baiting us, or they're just trying to bait us. I heard this all the time, and I always think, and I always want to hear the follow-up question: baiting you to do what?
yeah.
And I've actually asked this question
So
to people before, and they can't answer, because obviously the you're baiting us. Okay, well, maybe we are baiting you, but what are we baiting you to do?
yeah, and let's say that, right, let's say that we are baiting you. Do you have to take the bait? I mean, I thought that
Should you?
yes,
Would you take the bait if you were an ethical police officer? Would you take the bait? Because the bait is to violate rights, to see if they're going to violate rights. So an ethical, honorable oath taker would never have to worry about baiting, because they would never violate rights. So the only people that would ever worry about being baited into violating rights are rights violators.
that's true.
I mean, that's how I always think about it. It's, man, that sound is just like really throwing me off.
I thought it was a lift.
I think, like, I don't know what it is. It's from across the street, but let's see here. Here's the deal. I'm not sure what "here's the deal" means. I think it just means do what I do. It's all about control, like you said before.
Yeah. Here's the deal. I'm done. I'm done listening to whatever you got to say. We've reached the capacity of my intellect, and I can go no further. The deal is, listen to me, or violence is going to ensue, and it's going to be real violence, my favorite kind.
How about in this day and age? You know, you hear that a lot, and that basically is a reference to terrorism most of the time.
Yeah, and really, it should speak to the opposite, right? In this day and age, there are cameras everywhere. Cameras are ubiquitous. They're everywhere, and to not realize that one more camera, no matter whose hands that it's in, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Now, there's a lot more of these that we could go through, and they could essentially go on forever. But perhaps other than how can I help you, the most common thing you hear is people are feeling uncomfortable, and this, I mean, it's you got feeling and uncomfortable in the same sentence, and this is just like it's really strange because they just come out with this admission like about being feelings enforcers.
Yeah,
And
and
you know, the
that's
mob
right,
is
that's
kind of
the
like,
line, right?
yeah,
That's the line where your rights end, is where feelings come in, and discomfort. That is where rights end for them, because they don't care about rights. They couldn't care less about. They really don't care about feelings and comfortability. They only care about certain people's feelings and comfortability.
yeah, it's quite sad. That's what I hear the most. You know, people are uncomfortable. Um, this is odd, and they just want you to bend to the feelings of whoever is making a 911 call. We got a call, and these people are uncomfortable, and so therefore you need to stop doing what you're doing, even
Yeah,
though
it's the call in and of itself is the reasonable suspicion. You know.
yeah. Can you think of any more?
Um, I don't know. Probably not. There's probably hundreds more.
There's a lot more for officer safety. Um, I
Yeah,
like
that one's a pretty bad one, because where did the bravery go? You know, where did the bravery for our officers? Where did it disappear to? You know, what happened to the citizens' safety? You know, what happened to the safety of the people? They're not even responsible for safety, right?
yeah. Well, I think that I think that it's just a desire to use force. I think it attracts sadists, you know, and I don't know. I don't know if this problem can really be just fixed by
I don't know that it can be fixed. The problem with policing, I don't. I mean, so much would have to change, and there'd have to be this mass awakening in the public and political landscape. You know, some states are starting to get it right by acknowledging the lunacy of qualified immunity, but it's so much more than qualified immunity. It's internal investigations. It's it's government unionized to contract against the people. Uh, there's a lot that needs to get fixed, that would need to get fixed in order um, to change any of it for the better. I think
yeah.
it was all 9/11, the Patriot Act. I think it probably started a long time before then, but that's when it really got just amped up and ratcheted up. And I mean, I think Homeland Security is probably that's one of the biggest agencies. How many agents they have? I mean, is that not a standing army?
Yeah, and besides when you think about not just the police, but the government in general, a lot of times you see these these videos and you think, oh, okay, like they must be like they must be abusers and all this kind of different stuff. And I think a lot of the time, what the issue is they're just leeching. So they spend a lot of time doing nothing. If you're a city clerk or you're a police officer, they spend a lot of time just doing as little as possible. Uh, and I think when they have this sense that they're doing wrong, that they're essentially stealing, and then you point a camera at them and they're like, "Oh no." And I have to pretend to work now, and even the pretending to work is too much.
Yeah, no, I think an honest audit of these systems would prove that much of it is so unnecessary. Um, so many of these jobs are completely unnecessary, and not only is the utility of them fruitless, but what you just said, that what they're actually doing, what is actually being produced, what how much time is productive in there is such a joke.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time here. If anybody has a question for Foshin, type it in the chat right now. Um, a link to his channel is in the description. You can go down the description, click the link, subscribe to his channel. If you're not already, I can't imagine there's very many people watching this that are not already subscribed to your channel. But if there is somebody out there, link is in the description. Subscribe to his channel. You're going to like the work he does.
So I've got a question. First, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it, and I respect you tremendously. So thank you for having me on. But where has the Surveyor Raw gone?
It's just I don't have time. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with cameras everywhere and whatever YouTube channel. I don't really have any time to go out and record. Me and my daughter are like attached at the head. She's 2 years old. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on with it. There's the time issue, and then there's what we talked about before we came on live, where um, it's been very toxic for me, and I I get very angry. I'm not able to hold myself as back as much as you are, and you know, I don't know. I'd like to do more with it. I've even thought about giving these channels away, to someone like you.
Well, I don't know that
I
we
mean, I'd
share
like to,
the same feelings. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
I,
so what? I don't want to steal your thoughts. So go
no,
ahead.
no, please.
So was your wife during those COVID videos?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
those are masterpieces, my friend.
Those videos were really difficult for me to film. Any video is difficult for me to film because, like I was telling you, I'm an introvert. I'm a private person. I like to blend into the background. I like to pose as like a sheep. You know what I mean? Just to have my privacy and be left alone.
Yeah, no, and we're both alike in that way. That if anybody that saw one of my videos would not see the same person in any other setting. I would be the fly on the wall. Basically, I'm an observer. That is my nature. So
Yeah, I hope to bring it back, but I've really thought seriously about just taking this channel and just giving it to somebody else like you, so they could have a big channel to put content on. Um, but I've actually approached a couple different people with that idea, and I don't want to let it go because it's kind of like my baby or whatever. But these channels are hard to grow, and I mean, look at your channel. You've got excellent content, and you got some videos that have big exposure, but a lot of them, you know,
yeah,
it's a lot of work.
the vast majority of my videos they don't get any views.
No, they're dramatically underviewed.
Yeah.
And that's
And there is a frustration level, but if I think about it and if I'm honest about it, had I not had San Joaquin not shared any of those videos, one of two things would happen. either my channel wouldn't exist anymore, it'd be dead, or I would just have even less views, even less views than I have right now. He's probably brought in probably close to 20,000 subscribers, and the other 10 probably came from Rogue. You know what I mean? So, if you don't have somebody that's bigger than you helping you, it's tremendously difficult. At least that's been my experience. It's tremendously difficult to get traction.
Yeah, in fact, when you look at some of these really small channels, you'll see they have a video where they did 1 or 2 First Amendment audits. They're just trying it out, and they got 30 views or even less sometimes. And you look in the comments, and the comments are just like all trashing them. Like the first people in there, like I said, are the people that hate them.
Yeah.
And that's probably behind the attrition that we were talking about earlier. No, you're going out, you're putting yourself on the line, and then maybe you come back and you spend a couple hours editing, then you got to upload it and you're making thumbnails, and then if you're lucky, you got a couple thousand people see the video.
That's real.
Yeah, First Amendment Protection Agency. Someone. Yeah, this is a young kid. I don't know if you're familiar with this channel. I think it's pretty new. But
I think San Joaquin actually just did a video on him. He got arrested like 3 times in one video, right?
yeah, and I think I'm not sure if he got the chief. I'm not sure if he resigned because of that video or not. Ex bootlicker. I think he was like. I think maybe it's possible that he was going to resign anyway, but I'm not really sure. But I'd like to see him because he's a young person, and there really isn't a lot of young people in this movement. There's not. I think he must be 18 years old, that kid.
Yeah, it makes up for a tiny subset of who's watching, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, most viewers are like over 50 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably the case because they've seen the country go down the toilet.
Yeah.
Over time. So, yeah, well, I don't really have anything else for you right now. I really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, go down in the description, subscribe to Foshin's channel. This is a public service. You can go down in the description and find other links to my other channels. There's merch, there's PayPal. Got this in the merch. I hate to say it, but I got like the best merch and no one buys it.
I don't even have merch. What the hell am I doing?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to sell merch. I'm not the kind of person to push it or anything like that. But there's a lot of bad looking merch out there in our community that just looks like crap. But I'm not making a killing off it. But if you want a shirt that says record or that says press or something like that, and I have some shirts like that, I make like $2 off each one or something. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on, and I hope you can come on again later. Maybe we can come on a panel or something like that, and hopefully I can meet you in person sometime. I was this close to moving to DeLand, Florida.
Yeah,
recently.
DeLand it's beautiful. DeLand is beautiful, but you've seen some DeLand videos from me, so that's the other side of DeLand, and that is not a small side of DeLand.
Yeah, well, you told me after I told you I was going to move there. You're like, well, you're lucky you didn't.
Yeah, well, I would have liked to have
Seattle.
you in my backyard. That would have been real nice, but yeah, you did dodge a bullet there. Although it's not like you live in some bastion of freedom.
No, not at all. I mean, it's pretty bad out here. I have actually mixed feelings about what's going on out here. The police have a kind of a hard job out here. Everyone really hates them. I'm sure it's probably less so in Florida, but out here, people really dislike the police, and crime is skyrocketing here. you know, and you got roving bands of 12-year-olds doing armed robberies. We had the summer of love here with the Chop Chaz situation where they took over these city blocks, and then they just sent a message out to everyone like, "Hey, crime is okay, crime is fine." And I'm a law-abiding citizen. I don't like that. I mean, I'm not like a big fan of the police, but I'm not anti-police necessarily. I'm for constitutional policing.
Yeah.
When I record, I've been attacked, and the police come, and then they just go, like, I'm attacked. I show them the video of me being attacked in front of 20 witnesses, and the
We'll
criminal
send
is
this
still
on the
there.
prosecutors.
Oh, they're just like, we can't do anything. We can't do anything. I'm like, my property's damaged. I got blood coming out of my body. There's the criminal right there. You just watched it happen. Well, we can't really do anything about that. You know, like we can't make an arrest for this. Meanwhile, they would arrest me in 2 seconds if I did anything. But.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you very much. Subscribe to This is a Public Service, everybody. And thank you for joining. Really appreciate everybody here. And have a good day.
Period. End of story. You swore an oath to protect it. Honor your fucking oath. We're out here today to ensure our natural rights are respected by those who swore an oath to support, protect, and defend the rights of the people. The purpose of all interactions is to peacefully promote government accountability and transparency. Please like, share, and subscribe so this message can reach as many people as possible. I implore you to peacefully seek redress to any and all of your grievances. This is a public service.
Until next time, thank you for watching Cameras Everywhere. Beware enemies of the people, and remember, a nation's morals are like its teeth. The more decayed they are, the more it hurts to touch them.